What's up? Welcome to NBA Countdown Stay Home Edition or Sit Outside Your Home Edition. I'm coming to you live from a flip phone in Atlanta. Uncle P is in LA. Jay Rose, you've been everywhere?
Though I have. I was in Atlanta this past weekend for my daughter's 14th birthday. Happy birthday, Gracie. Brought her a German Shepherd named Louis. He's 8 weeks. Put him on the plane. She was happy to see Louis. And I was also there, Maria, and I would like to get a snapshot of how you feel because you're there right now with the tragic killing of Rayshard Brooks. I was supposed to leave that evening, and I didn't realize initially driving to the airport what was happening as it related to the protests and just to hear the story of what is taking place, in particular during this Black Lives Matter climate. How are you holding up in Atlanta? And I know you want to give a big shout out to Jay Will and introduce him to.
Yes, Jay Will's in the building as well, and I appreciate you, Jay Rose, for bringing that up because it's been kind of a hard couple of days for me. It's interesting because I've got some good friends that work in APD, and you spend a lot of time thinking, this won't happen in Atlanta. Like, we are a city that we're a lot of firsts, right? Like MLK was here, civil rights were birthed and born in a lot of ways in this city. So to watch that video happen, it was scary. And like you said, you were probably here when the riot was happening, where they were burning down the Wendy's where he was killed. All I can say is that, I feel sorry for his family. I have a friend that knows his daughter, spends a lot of time with her, and they walk their dogs together. So it's hard when you see that happen to a father. I'm proud of Keisha Lance Bottom. She's our mayor, who was very swift in her actions. The police chief was immediately stepped down and or fired, however you want to call it. And she immediately said that, that it was a killing, essentially, and the use of deadly force was not warranted. And that's what you would want from your leaders, but it's still a senseless death and something that you hate to see happening anywhere, but especially, obviously, Jay Rose, in my city, as you would probably feel the same way if something happened in Detroit or in Oakland or any of the cities that you guys are from. So let's move on to a little bit of NBA discussion, guys, because obviously, every time we sit down and talk, we're excited about the start of the season. We wanted to see it finish. There was a lot of storylines that we wanted to see if there was an ending that was going to be written that we didn't really think was going to happen beforehand. But not so fast, my friends. Malika Andrews and Adrian Wojnarowski have reported recently that Kyrie Irving, alongside Avery Bradley, they've gotten together and formed a coalition of players. And basically what they're trying to do are address some of the questions that players may have about returning back to the NBA season. Some of those questions include, how will monies be used to influence social justice and social change as they return into this bubble? How will their environment really be? How healthy or safe will it be? How will injuries be treated during a truncated system? And I guess there are a lot of questions that if you're a player returning under these circumstances that you might have. My question is, what was your response to seeing maybe who was leading up, the names that were up front leading this coalition? And the ones that we always keep naming are Kyrie and obviously Avery. We can start with you, Jay Will, because we haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah, I got a chance last night. I was watching Don Lemon on CNN and saw Dwight articulate himself about what was going on. And, first off, I want to say that both sides can be right here, okay? And there's still a due process that both sides have to go through here. And everybody's on the same team. So even though you disagree or if you agree, it doesn't mean that you're not on the team. And I personally am on the side of guys coming back to play. Now, I know there's a lot of risk. I know Adam Silver was on a show last night on SportsCenter with Greeny talking about, at your own risk to come back and play. And, obviously the NBPA has signed an agreement to come back and play with 22 teams. I understand the coalition. I think they are trying to fight for bigger causes. I think one of the hiccups that happened there after that stuff leaked is that I think people were looking for tangible action. What are you asking for in return for you to play or not to play? What do you need owners to do? Instead of there being essentially like a blanket statement by saying, hey, we don't feel comfortable playing. We want there to be action. I hear that. I think that, and this is obviously a deep issue to discuss and try to be quick about it, but I also think about, what are you doing for the future wealth of other young Black individuals. Obviously, this league is predominantly African American. I would say that there could be huge financial repercussions on the league. And you talk about players losing $1 billion of salary. So I hear what they're saying. I think it still has a lot of thinking through to be done, because my thing is, you don't want to disrupt one of the biggest vehicles there is in our world that has really provided a lot of wealth to a lot of African Americans, especially the future of the game. And I understand taking a stance, but there's also future repercussions to a lot of guys and their future earning potential. So it's challenging. It's not easy. I respect the due process. If that is the case, I just want to see tangible action on how you're going to do it before I can make a holistic assessment.
Listen to this, Jay. These guys, it's an individual decision. And yeah, the implications moving forward on the money side, but when players ask themselves, what's more important to me, my family, my life, or this money? Because at the end of the day, when we start talking about this, it all comes down to money. But it's like, you got lives at stake here. And so I can understand why the players are like, they're putting themselves at risk, their life at risk. This is not like going down there, maybe I'll get injured. Maybe I'll go down and I'll catch COVID and it's over for me. So, they're putting their lives at risk. Yeah, they'll lose a lot, but what is billions of dollars worth your life at the end of the day? I mean, that's the question everybody, I feel like, got to ask themselves. And this is going to be an individual decision. So, Kyrie, he's right. Players who go, they're also right. And so, there's no wrong decision in all of this.
I'm with you.
And if it's just going to come down to it being about money or, having a platform when you get there, I mean, yes, your voice is still going to be heard because the NBA is one of the biggest platforms that you can have at this day and age, especially with sports coming back to where you can voice your concerns on systematic inequality. It's a double-edged sword for me.
America has always shown me that the power of the dollar ultimately is going to be the main decision maker. And what Paul is talking about, and you, Jay, is how effectively can we take that power and that dollar and turn it into change? And so what ends up happening in these circumstances is the people that are taking the most risk are the ones that need to pay their bills. Like the difference between that and NBA players, they already live in the suburbs and have multi-millions of dollars in the bank. So that risk may not be worth it, especially if you know your team has no chance to win the championship. I just want to use a guy like DeMar DeRozan, for example. He a seasoned vet, made $100 million playing basketball. LaMarcus Aldridge is hurt, and the Spurs are a championship or bust franchise. They're not getting to their goals this year. Why do I want to go get in a bubble in Orlando for 2 or 3 months? I really don't want to take that chance. I want to play a lot longer and load manage and the game not be as physical and play the long game. And so there is going to be players, and I'm pretty sure the NBA is ready for this, that just don't go. There's going to be players that don't go. And the team's got to be ready to replace those players, and fans and media and other people in the league. If Orlando wins the championship, then we're going to give them an asterisk. If the Lakers, Clippers, or the Bucks win it and they miss one of their best players, that's going to be our debate right there if they would have done it. So there are going to be players that don't go. So get ready for that.
I'm going to say one thing, that this is what I do have a problem with because, to my understanding, the players that choose not to go will not get paid. And you have 8 other teams who not even invited to this, where those players will get paid. Now, if I have a choice to go down there and you telling me I'm not going to get paid if I don't show because I have a concern about my livelihood, I don't get that part right there. So the players who choose not to go, who say I don't feel comfortable or I don't feel good about putting my life at risk throughout these times, I believe they should be compensated too. That's my only issue.
So how realistic is it that we believe guys can be in the bubble, finishing the season, and still having meaningful impact in social change outside of the bubble? Like, how realistic are we in thinking that, and would it be better served to not be playing?
This is an excellent platform for that. This is an opportunity for guys to get on the national stage, because let's just keep it real. When sports come, when the NBA come, everybody's going to watch it. This is your chance to use that platform on a national program such as ESPN, ABC, TNT, all the broadcasts to promote, change through your branding. I wouldn't be surprised if we have certain players come out with signature shoes voicing, how they feel about what's going on right now, signature shirts that you see players, signature clothing when they walk into the building. This is all going to be on TV. This is an opportunity for guys to really step up even more to another level outside of just social media. The world is going to be watching. So what better platform than doing it right here on the campus in Orlando?
I think Kyrie and Avery and Dwight are onto something, but I would go about it a little bit differently. I think you can give off the feel that, hey, look, if we're together, we may not play if we don't get this. I think some of the things that you could get, obviously things that are immediate. Hey, we want more diversity within the league. We want more diversity as far as ownership. But I also think that you can have a lot of these owners push through lobbyists for different state legislation that is conducive to what the ask is. I do think you can push owners to do that, to be more involved. I think it's been interesting to watch a lot of owners, due to their political affiliations, maybe not come out and make comments. So I do think there is something to that. And at the same time, Paul, if you're able to get them to do that, I would then agree with you that, playing having the largest platform in the world to bring more attention. And you know what else it does? Like, we've seen it happen with the pandemic. And I'm curious to get your opinions on this too, J. Rose. So we've seen psychological exhaustion with the pandemic, right? 2.5 months, people saying, screw it. I want to go outside. I want to be with my peeps. I was here in Brooklyn when we got back from Maine the other day. You would have thought it was Mardi Gras happening downtown. So are we going to get to a point like that with the protests? Will we get to a point where people will be somewhat exhausted or tired of all the protests? So what I say with players, by playing, if you're able to do that, then you're able to extend the runway of the conversation for another 2.5, 3 months. If that's maybe all in unison, not answering the media, maybe by just saying Black Lives Matter, or by saying all the names of all the victims throughout the years that have been subjected to police violence, brutality, you continue the conversation that becomes lengthy and get all the way to November, where let's not act like this election isn't a massive thing. And you push the conversation instead of it losing steam. Maybe it doesn't lose steam. I don't know. It's another way to extend the runway. Just a thought.
But here's one thing you can't do in Orlando: be mobile, because you're quarantined. And in a lot of ways, that can handcuff the movement, because you can't be active. You can press send on Twitter and on IG, but you can't leave a campus. And so now what do you do when it continues to take place? You guys know the names: Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. You know the names: George Floyd. Nobody lost the pandemic or the quarantine period like the police. You would think that once one of these situations happened, that we wouldn't continue to have these scenarios take place. And so what ends up happening is, depending on your sport, you have to exercise your power. And like the picture over my shoulder, it's basketball and football players, the predominantly Black sports, the greatest at what they do, that aren't scared to lose their endorsements, and it won't affect their bottom line. And so now that you have that power, what do you do with it? And I agree with you, Jay. Action items are crucial, because to me, it should be, we want these things over in our plan. It's this. Your league has shown you that they'll put out a statement, they'll put out a video, but they're not really taking action on the things that they say. And that's what I hope that the players get a chance to do. Get on the same page about what they want and go after that. it's so much to be enthusiastic about the change that you want to see happen. It's another thing to have a focus and a discipline to make it happen. And they have the power to do it. This ain't Bubba Wallace at NASCAR. He got a long way to go. Only black driver. Oh man, that sport gonna take forever. He'd be long gone before that sport has a black voice or multiple in power. Basketball and football got it, and they got to exercise it right now.
Well, I feel like this is a conversation we're going to continue to have in the lead up to our start of the NBA season finishing, I guess. If I were to add my 2 cents, I would just say that if there was a decision to not play, or a lot of players were galvanizing behind this idea of social change, you would just want it to be such a very focused effort and that every single individual would be invested in it. And I know that that's hard to get everyone to agree on one thing. Even right now, especially this week in Atlanta, you're starting to realize that there's so many things that are so much bigger. And this conversation probably has to expand and continue to expand as we look to leaders that just happen to also be athletes during this time. Because in a lot of ways, they are some of our most influential Black leaders in the community. So I know that we'll be continuing the conversation. We'll talk about it on Thursday. And as we hear more about this coalition, what they're trying to do and the conference calls that they're having, we'll all be breaking it down. But thanks again, guys, for another NBA Countdown Stay Home edition. The next time we talk to each other, I might be in a home. We'll see what happens.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.